Answer the first question, like how can we make some changes in running containers. Now I want to create image out of running container. Let's try to answer this and try to resolve it as try to solve it as soon as possible. Yeah, so my setup is ready. So I have Docker installed. You can install Docker using this command. Like for time being, you can install using this command. Using this command, you can install Docker on Ubuntu server. This is Ubuntu related command, so you can install Docker. So let's go to the answer. Docker. If I see Docker images, if I have any images, there won't be. Docker container, any container running. ps-a. If a yeah, so no container running, but these are in exited state, so they're not running. No container running in our setup. So let's try to pull in Nginx image and then try to make some changes in Nginx and run the Nginx container and then try to make some changes inside the container and try to create image out of it. Yeah, so let's see Docker images. We'll run container out of this. Let's run Docker run in detach mode. Let's run this. Let's run this image. Now let's see if it is running. It is running. So let's get into the container. Interactive terminal, and then let's give container ID. Bin bash. I've inside the container. Let's see what is there in the container. Let's create a file inside this, and let's create a file mkdir html index.html. Let's create index.html file. Is it created? It is created. So let's try to exit this container and try to create image out of it. Docker images. Docker ps. Let's try to make image out of this. To make image out of this, let's commit container ID and then image name. Image name is the Docker ID of my account. I want to push it to Docker Hub as well. So Nginx version 10. I've committed. Let's try to log in into Docker account. My Docker account. Let's log in into, and then we can log in and then we can push the image to Docker Hub. I've already logged in, so like before I started this video, I did some practice I did some experiment using Docker login and all, so it was already logged in. So it is already logged in, so we can push it. We can directly push it. But for you, it would ask a username and password. You have to give username and password. Docker push. Try to push the image. Oh, it is denied. Okay. Docker login. Why is it saying denied? Let me check. Let me check that. Oh, got it. So my okay. So the issue was commit ID. This is not my account. My account was 507. This is my account. So yeah, this is my account. So I've committed using wrong account ID, and it was not authenticating. Now let's try to push. It should push. It is pushing. Let's try to verify if if the image has come. It's pushing. Yeah, it has pushed. So let's try to check if the image has come. Yeah, the image has come. Let's try to pull this image, and then we'll check if that file is there in that container image. Try to pull run, and then let's see. Let's try to run this command, run this container. Try to get it. Try to get into that container. Okay. I'm inside the container. Let's see if that file is there. That file is there. So yeah. So this is how we push. We make changes in running container and try to push it to Docker Hub and then pull, and the file is visible. So this is how we try to push the running container as an image. So this is the way by which we can do. That's all. Let's go to let's go to second question. The second question, like I want to keep the Docker file static, but want to make some changes in the application, and you should not make any changes to Docker file. How do I build it? How do I build the image again without making changes to Docker file? How do we answer this? Let's try to see if we have. So Docker is there, and there's an image, right? This image is running. Let's try to we have the repository. Repository is there. Let me check if we have repository. Repository is not there. Let's pull the repository. Is Docker file in this? There's Docker file in this, but I don't want to change the Docker file. Let's get the Docker file. This is the application Docker file. I don't want to change anything in this Docker file, but I want to update the image. So how do I do it? So let's try to install Nginx. Let's try to do it. Yeah. We can do it. Let's try to create a Docker file. On the Docker file, let's try to name it as Docker file override. And this is the image which we are trying to update. And then we are trying to install Nginx, and then we are trying to copy default.config to in the container to etc Nginx sites available and default. We are exposing the port 80 and 5000, which is already exposed, and we are trying to run Nginx and this Python application both. So this is how we try to override the existing image with Nginx. We are trying to install Nginx on the existing image without changing Docker file. Let's try to do it. Let's try to get default.config also. So this will try to search in locally, right? Copy means it will copy from local and then try to add it inside the container to etc Nginx sites available default folder. It will try to try to create this file in default folder. So before that it should be available locally, right? So I've made it available locally. Yeah, so now we can override by running a contain by running the image. By specifying this Docker file, we can override. We can again build the application. -F we can give Docker file override. Let's give the name as updated image. Latest. Let's keep target latest. Or let's keep it as v5. Hmm. Let's build it. Try to build on the existing image which is available. So -T I have not given. Okay. It has built. So Docker images. It has built the updated image. It has built. So we can push it to Docker Hub as well. Docker login. We have already logged in. So we can push it, but we'll not push it because it will create a new image. So it's better not push it, but pushing we know, right? So we commit and we push, we tag and we push. That's the two commands which we can run to push the image. But let's keep it locally. Let's try to run this image and let's see if it is running fine. v5. It has run. So let's see. It is running. It is running. So updated image v5. So let's try to grab the public IP. Try to check if it is available. It is available. So application is available. So we have updated the image with Nginx with Nginx installed image. So updated the image by not disturbing the Docker file. We have not disturbed the Docker file. We have overridden Docker image with the another Docker file which is Docker override. We have created a file called as Docker override and we have updated the image. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. So I've answered third question as well. So this question is already answered. So how to mount a container while running existing locally? Which is existing locally. Like there's a file locally which is available. I want to mount this file to a container. So how do I mount it? So let's try to check if any images are there. No images are there. And let's try to check if Docker containers are running. We don't have any Docker containers. So we can mount it by running Docker container, Docker run -d detach mode and -v. Uh, where is the file? Home directory. Upload. That's the file which is available locally. So we are specifying this locally. So locally this is available. And let's try to run the container image. It's taking, it is not available locally, so it is, yeah. So let's try to check the container. It is running. If it is running, so get into the container and see if that is mounted, that file is available or not. It is there, so it is there in home directory. It is mounted, so that file is mounted in home directory. So that's how we answer this question and we try to resolve the issue. So we have mounted a file which is available locally in home directory. Yeah, so we have mounted to a container. Now that file is mounted to container. That's how we resolve this issue. Now let's try to answer this question, like why do we need, why do we write docker file, multi-stage docker file, and why do we need it? To answer this, let's try to answer this by, I have written some points. So first thing is, it makes image smaller. That's the first thing. Like why do we use docker, multi-stage docker file? First thing is to make image size smaller. Sometimes image size is maybe around 1 GB or 2 GB or 15 GB. But when we use multi-stage docker file, what happens is decreases the size to MBs, maybe 100 MB or 50 MB or something like that. So it decreases the size of the image. So to decrease the size of the image, we use multi-stage docker file. And second thing is, it keeps things clean. Like we can divide the docker file into different stages. Like stage 1 build stage, and stage 2 as test stage, and stage 3 as running stage. Right. So that's how we can keep things clean. So third thing is, it makes build faster. That's the third thing. And in simple terms, multi-stage build helps you create smaller, cleaner, and faster image for your app. Yeah, so that's the simple thing, that it creates smaller, cleaner, and faster images. So one example I can give, like in this example, this is the base image which I am using. I am using my own image, which is Manohar Shetty course website V1 tag. I'm using the base image, and I'm building on the top of, this is the first image which I am taking. And stage 2 is, I've taken Python 3.9 Alpine. This is the smallest image which we have. So I've taken the smallest image to build. So I'm building on the top of Manohar Shetty course website V1 stage. On the top of that, what it is doing is it will try to build here, but it try to install all the packages required from the required txt. But second stage is, I'm building here with, I'm using builder. Like builder, it will copy the code from, app. So what it will do is, what it will do is, I'll tell you. Builder, it will, instead of copying everything from the builder stage, it only copies necessary files such as app code or install dependencies that you run the app. As we're using Python 3.9, right? So this will make sure that our overall image will be smaller. Like I'll give you one example here. So see, this is the image. I've already built it. So this is my image. How much is it? Is it 130 MB? So I've again rebuilt it using multi-stage docker file. So now it came to 50 MB. So that's how it is. Let's check. Let's check multi-stage docker file. Yeah, this is the docker file which I'm using. Base image, I'm using my own application image, and then on the top of that, I'm building again with stage 2 with Alpine 3.9, and then we expose and we run the application. So it overall it builds applications smaller. It makes smaller applications smaller. So it made applications very smaller. Like 50 MB is very less comparatively to 130 MB. Like 50% is more than 50% is it has decreased. So overall, we were able to decrease the image size. Yeah, and also it builds faster because it reuses the part of build that haven't changed. So if something has built here, like let's suppose if image is already pulled, it will not already it will not again pull. It will try to build from stage 2 from here. It will try to build from here. And if this is already copied, it will not copy again, but it will try to build from here. So it builds faster. That's what it is saying. Like it doesn't have to rebuild again every time. This makes builds faster. So this is the overall reason why we use multi-stage Docker file. Like we use multi-stage Docker file. First thing is to make image smaller, and second thing is to keep things clean, and third thing is it speeds to speed up the builder to speed up the build process. These are the three things to remember. That's all. These three things to remember whenever somebody asks you in the interview, like why do we use multi-stage Docker file? There are three things. First thing is to make image smaller. Second thing is to keep things cleaner. Like you can divide the Docker file into different stages, like build stage, test stage, and then running stage. So these three things to remember when before we answer this question. Overall this is the thing. So yeah, so that's all. Create 10 nodes using Terraform and store public IPs in a local file locally. Let's try to answer this. Before answering this, I have created the configuration file for Terraform configuration file, and this is trying to fetch the VPC from my account, AWS VPC, and this is the name which I want to give, local name which I want to give for the resource. And this is the VPC name, and at the same time it will try to fetch the public subnet as well. This public subnet, and this is a public subnet internal name which I want to give, internal resource name which I want to give here. This selected for subnet which I have given, and this security group, and this security group which is there in my account. So it will try to fetch using data. It will try to fetch the security group, and then this is a servers. This is server configuration, like 10 nodes I need, right? And this is the image which I am running, and instance type I have taken T2 micro rather than T2 medium, because T2 medium will be anyway it is for testing purpose. For 10 nodes we need to create, right? So I've only taken T2 micro, and it will try to fetch the subnet ID and security group. And user data we can ignore. I'll try to ignore it. Yeah. And this is the name which I want to give my server. And I'll get the output of the 10 server IPs, public IP. I'll get the output I'll get the output by getting the output of my instance public IPs. And I'll try to use the local file resource through which I can store the IPs in a file locally, and that local file I want to name it as public IP txt. And this is the command which I am running, content join that slash n it will create new line for each and every IP. AWS instance my server, it will take all the servers and public IPs of that, and try to create new line for each and every IP, and it will store it. I'll try to create the resource now. Let's try to create it. Let's see if it's getting created. This is the overall flow. That this is important here. So this thing is important here. Local file resource, and then public IP file. This is the internal name which I want to give. Let's see if it's getting created, and it gives the IP. Let's see if it created the instances. It has created. So it has created 10 instances, my server. Okay, it has given output as public IPs, and let's check the file got created or not. File also got created. The public IP txt. This is the file which got created. So file also got created. Now our task is completed. Now we are getting the public IP txt file, and in that 10 public IPs of that servers. So those servers. Let's try to delete it. It's better to destroy everything what you have created. This is the experiment which we are doing for the question. For this question, right? Public address in a file locally. Store public IPs in a file locally. Yeah, I'm deleting everything. I'll give the configuration file in GitHub repo. You try to get it. It will delete that. Okay, it will delete if we delete the servers, it will delete public.txt file also. Public IPs.txt file also. So it creates and it deletes. So overall our experiment is completed, our answer is completed. So this is how we store the public IPs of the servers in a file locally. It's taking time for some time to get deleted, get all deleted. Let's wait for some more minutes before it's deleted. It's taking more time than required. Let's wait for some more time, some more minutes. It's better you delete everything, whatever you created. So it's a best practice to delete whatever is created, or else you forget and billing will happen. So my account is anyway not free tier, so because it's more than 1 year, so I've been using. So it will take. So overall, this is the thing which we wanted to discuss, right? So overall, this question is also completed. Question: TF state file got corrupted. How do I recover it? If it is corrupted or it is removed, so how do I recover it? So this is the answer. This is the question which I want to answer. To answer this, let's get into the terminal. So we have this tf.txt file is there, right? So this is the actual tf state file. So I've renamed it. Let's try to cat and see what is there in that. The infrastructure. This is the resources available in our cluster. So this is the overall idea of what is there in the cluster. So I've renamed it. So anyway, it is not available. So what, we can remove tf state file. Can remove this. Yeah. Once that is removed, we don't have any tf state file in our cluster. So how do I recover it? So we can recover it using this backup file. What we can do is we can rename this backup file as tf state file. We can rename it, right? Once that is renamed, we have to do Terraform refresh. Refresh to reflect the current state of the infrastructure by querying the real-time resources. So to get the current state of the infrastructure, what is there in the infrastructure? So we have to do Terraform refresh. I have the commands here. So I have the commands here. So after that, we will use JQ to to query and display the content of old Terraform file. From the Terraform file, what is there in the Terraform file? Let's try to get it using JQ. What is there in the Terraform file? We'll try to display it. So we have VPC, we have VPC, then we have subnet, and then we have security group. So three things are there in our Terraform, in our state file. After doing JQ, we were able to get it. So now let's try to stateful. We have to do stateful. Download the latest Terraform state to get the latest Terraform state from the cluster. So let's do stateful to new file. Let's create a new file out of that pool. Once that is done, let's rename the new state tf.state file terraforms.state. Do we have terraforms.state file? We have, but let's rename it. Yeah, so do we have it? Yeah, it is there. So it has come up. We have renamed this file to terraform.tf.state file. Now after this, let's try to Terraform state list. Let's try to see what is there in the state. There should be three things in our state file: VPC, subnets, and security group. Yeah, so we have VPC, subnet, and security group. There are three things in our state file. So state file is recovered now. Yes, we have state file now. It was not there before, so we have removed it, but now we recovered it using backup. So this is how you recover state file using .backup file. So we had backup.file, that's why we were able to recover. Yeah, so that's the overall idea of how do we recover Terraform state file. So this is how we recover.